Warning: tube amplifiers have lethal voltages inside them. Please do not attempt to build, test, or repair these without understanding and following all safety protocols. Hey y'all! Well, I was going to give you a little update on where we are with our new 300B, which is going to be the same circuit we used on the previous budget 300B that then became the expensive 300B after I got it all upgraded with Tango iron and stuff. And we're starting from scratch with a new chassis, and I've figured out the chassis layout. And the Monday monologue a week or two ago, I was talking to y'all about how can I save some money on doing this fab stuff, because I fabbed up about 4 of these chassis and just getting, getting like all the tube socket holes and the mounting holes for all the stuff. Yeah, it ends up taking almost a whole day with each chassis doing this fab work. And given that these chassis are pre-powder coated, you have to be so careful with them that you don't scratch them. And that's really hard to do when you're trying to do fab work and you're working around drill bits and presses and, die grinders. And all it takes is a little slip of the die grinder and you go whoop across the chassis and it's ruined. And so, working on coming up with a CNC file or a CAD file that I can send to a CNC laser, whatever, sheet metal automated fabrication kind of facility to have bare metal chassis that are pre-drilled with all the main holes, which are like the tube sockets, and the IEC connector, which is a big pain to make, a square hole with the right shape and size and everything, and then the power switch will be up here in the front. But I'm going to leave the holes for the transformers not drilled because that could change with the model that you're buying or that what you would want to do. And the idea too is that I have a lot of people asking, hey, can you sell me a fabricated chassis? In the past, the amount of labor it took to hand fabricate these things for people and, selling something that, like for me, if one of these tube socket holes has a little burr on it or something, it's not a big deal to me because you're putting a tube socket in it, you'll never see it, and I don't worry about it. But if I'm selling a chassis to somebody else, I know I would be like, what is this? Why is that all boogered up on the edge, Even though you won't see it, when you buy something, a commercial product, you're expecting in this day and age that it's going to be, perfect. And so, when waiting on the prototype, it's supposed to be here August 5th, and I'm going to see what it looks like. And hopefully, this thing's going to look really nice. And if it does, that's going to really help me meet a price point and also have some chassis to sell you guys. Because one of the things I've learned about this fab, sheet metal kind of fab stuff, and it's not surprising to me, especially if it's an automated kind of system, that the setup is what costs money. And so like the first one is $150, $175. But when you make 10 of them, it's half that price. Or maybe even, or somewhere around there. And the thing end up may getting tweaked or whatever, but I'd like to get the chassis with bare metal, with holes drilled in them, with a bottom cover, with vent holes and all that. If I could get those down to $100, $125 pre-powder coating, I'm going to be happy. And then I can, hope you understand I mark them up a little bit because I'm buying quantity and I'm stocking them and, dealing with making, coming up with a CAD file and the layout and all that stuff. But I think I could come up with an affordable chassis for people to buy that don't want to buy a whole lamp. But it'll save me a ton of time in building these things. So, got Matt at Musical Power Supplies, made me a couple of these 3.5K, 8 ohm, 20 watt power transformers. And you can see they got a nice thick core in them. And trust me, these are like twice the size of the transformers that are in a Wilsonton R300. And yeah, they don't look as big as those big Tangos, but these are nice beefy size iron that should have no problem working with a 300B2. And then Hammond choke. And then I was initially planning on using, I think it was a 274B, and then putting a separate filament transformer in, because here's the monster. God, it's like this thing weighs like 11 pounds, and this one's designed for 288 milliamps, which is way overkill. And it's also got a super high, it's got 6 amps on the 6.3 rail, and I need maybe 1. And so this thing is expensive. I think they're $240 or something like that plus shipping. And then it adds a ton of weight to the amp, which is going to make it more expensive to ship, which you have to think about that. The total cost is, the heavier the amp is, the more it's going to cost, when it's to your door. So I talked to Matt again at Musical Power Supplies, and he is going to wind me up some prototype power transformers that, and the other problem with this one is it's got 5-volt filaments, and to use the regulated heaters like I want to use with those low dropout regulators, you need 7 volts AC. So it doesn't even have the right taps for that. And I was going to try to work around that by just doing unregulated DC heaters. But anyway, he thinks on this size core, he can wind a 200 amp that'll get the voltages that I need for the B+, but it'll have 2 7-volt 2 amp rails, and then 1 2 amp 6.3, and then 1 3 amp 5-volt rail. And so it's substantially less than what even this would cost, much less this. And then I don't have to have the separate filament transformer and all that wiring. It'll just make a much cleaner build. So that's something I've been kind of working on in the background to try to get set up. And once I get all this transformer thing figured out, and I want to talk to Matt and see if he can make the choke too, which I think he does make chokes. And we'll put together like the Skunky 300B transformer package. And you can just call Musical Power Supply up and say, yeah, I need that transformer set that Skunky uses. And you can buy them direct from him. And then buy a chassis from me, and then you can build it. And, if you specify that you're buying Matt's transformer for a little additional cost, I can drill the transformer mounting holes because I know what iron you're going to be using. And I know it'll fit. But if you got other iron and stuff, I probably are not going to deal with that. Like if you want to use Edcore or Hammond or some other brand, I just don't want to get into having too many options. But since I'm going to be drilling them for myself, I'll have a template for doing the Musical Power Supply iron. And so that's a possibility. So I still don't know what the price point's going to be. I'm shooting for around $2,000 with no tubes. And I think I can hit that price point because these transformers are a little cheaper than the Haybooers, but then it's got regulated DC heaters. It may end up being $2,200 for this, what I'm going to call the affordable 300B. And then I plan on doing 3 tiers of a 300B amp. So we'll have the affordable that comes with the Musical Power Supply, and then using the Musical Power Supply output transformers and, just kind of standard wiring. And it's going to have, I've learned over the years that I've been building these things that in the past I kind of overspec'd the power supply, especially the filter caps, and putting dual chokes in it. It was nice to have, but it really is unnecessary. But like that 2A3 amp I just built, which should be sensitive to hearing hum, it's just dead silent. Even using AC heaters at 2.5 volts, but using one choke and a resistor cap for the second stage of filtering. And so that's what we're going to do with this one is, downscale the power supply a little bit to save some money. And I don't think it's going to sonically have much, if any, impact. And then, again, we're going to be using the, more affordable output transformers. Probably going to be using some, more affordable, like speaker jacks and stuff like that. Still going to be using the same power switch, and you're probably going to use an Alps volume pot instead of an audio note. That's going to save some money. I still want to put the tube rings on because that's kind of my signature, and it only costs about $25, and then I can have all the chassis drilled the same. I don't have to have special ones drilled without and with, and some of them have screws showing and some don't. I want to standardize that so that the wiring layout inside of all of them are the same. So then the next tier up will be the same power supply, same transformer, same layout, same, choke, RC, and all that. That's going to be identical. And we'll go with a audio note volume pot. We'll go with some, instead of using Nikon Muse bypass caps on the output tubes, we'll go with audio note, a little higher end bypass caps. We'll go with non-inductive resistors, which are like 4 times as expensive on the output tubes as well. And then we'll use ISO Tango output transformers. And I may give the choice of using either the FC20s or the FC30s. And basically, the difference will just be the cost of the transformers, because it doesn't, I don't plan on making money on the transformers. It's just going to be whatever the additional parts cost, because it doesn't cost me any extra money to put an audio note or a Alps volume pot in it. Or if you're ordering one and you say, I don't want a volume pot on it, I can build them without a volume pot too. And so I think those will be 2 nice tiers. You'll have the affordable unit that would allow you to get into a 300B amp. Would probably be ideal to use with like either the PS Vane Horizons level of 300B tubes, or use something like Gold Lions, or I've never used them. People say those JJs sound really nice. That would be kind of what you would use that tier of amp for, or even those Shuggy 300B-Z mesh plate tubes would work great in it. But basically, a $200-$300 a pair level tubes would be what would be suitable for that amp. But you could put $1,000 tubes in it if you want. That's the thing with an amp that comes with no tubes. You can put whatever you want in it. But then when you upgrade to the deluxe model that comes with the Tango iron, that would be more where you may get EML tubes, or you might, spend the money to get some of those Summit PS Vane tubes, something like that, when you're getting into the $800,000 range tubes. And then finally, I'm going to build what I'm going to be calling like the ultimate 300B, and that's more of a cost is less of a concern kind of a deal. And I'm going to have some really nice custom wood surround cabinets made for them with a nice powder coated, may even have like the tube numbers engraved on the top plate of the 100 thou thick aluminum plates that'll have, really nicely drilled out, all that fab work done really nice. Have some like audio note level speaker connection, Nutric RCA connections, have, higher end just parts throughout. Plan on using some silver wire on the signal path circuits, like from the output transformers to the speaker jacks, and from them to the output tubes, that sort of thing, and some silver wire interconnecting the driver tube to the tag strips and to the output tubes and that sort of thing. So yeah, just upscale everything. And those will come with a ISO Tango laydown transformer where it sits like in this orientation. And then also use an ISO Tango choke. So it all has matching Tango iron. And like I said, the main thing is it's going to have a really nice upscale wood surround, mahogany with some little corner trim accents, and just it's going to be a really nice looking amp and priced accordingly. And again, I haven't figured out the price tiers yet, but that's kind of where I'm leaning. And this whole CAD thing has opened up a lot of options, and that's one of the reasons I haven't been making so many videos. I've really been trying to research a lot of this stuff and understand like how to get into this manufacturing thing in a way that I can make affordable products, and they're not just all these time-consuming, hand-fabricated things. And the next few amps are still going to be these hand-fab deals. I've still got several of these blank Hammond chassis that I'm going to be fabbing up, and I need to build some EL34 amps, and I'm going to build some 2A3 amps, but I'm probably going to start the 300Bs with the ones that are being CNC done, or laser cutter, or however they, I'm not sure exactly what process they use, and the other deal with that is then I can get all the holes drilled, get all the fab work done, and then take them over to the local powder coater and get them powder coated. And then, unlike this one, because you can see the shiny parts where it's not powder coated in the holes and I have to come in with some touch-up paint, touch up all these holes on it, the holes will be powder coated and everything. And I do need to look into, there's a local engraving shop that may be, get interested in engraving like the tube numbers, so say like 6S and 7 or 300B. That may be for the Ultimate only. I think that might be a little too much to do at this price point and still be able to hit the price point we want. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this. I know this 300B amp sounds really good. I've had multiple people, dozens of people that have built a 300B amp based off that schematic that I published several years ago, and universally people praise how good it sounds. Now, some of the engineer types pick it apart on DIY audio and they're like, there's no way that could work good, and that's too much, it doesn't have enough current to swing the way. It's like, oh, guys, it sounds fantastic and it tests well. It makes the power that you would expect a 300B amp to make, and even when it had EdCore transformers, it sounded good. And so I know this is going to be a nice sounding amp. I just need to try to get the price point down, and I think getting these custom wound transformers and then getting, a sheet metal fabrication shop to custom make the chassis so that all the fab work's done, or the majority of it's done, and the simple, drilling 6 holes for each transformer in a drill press takes maybe an hour at best, and that's being careful. And then the nice thing is they're bare steel, so you don't have to worry about if you scratch it, you can sand it, or you can even put a little Bondo on a scratch and sand it out and powder coat over that, and you never know it. And so I don't have to be as concerned about just being scared to be around these things while you're working on them. So anyway, that's the 300B roadmap. And I do feel like that 300B tubes, for whatever reason, have gotten so hyped up on the internet that some people, that's all they want. They're just convinced that there's something so magic about a 300B amp that nothing else will do. And honestly, until you get into like the really high-end tubes, there's not a whole lot of difference between like a JJ 300B tube and a JJ EL34 tube as far as what they sound like. I don't think they sound that different, if at all. Maybe just a little, but I'm not sure that the EL34 doesn't sound better with a lot of music. And so I just kind of warning people that, it's kind of like when I was talking about in my vinyl video, unless you're ready to spend some money on some really nice tubes, you might want to think about just getting a 300 or a EL34 amp being happy with it. Especially when those EL34 tubes are $25 a piece instead of $150 a piece for even cheap ones. Because nobody makes a $25 300B tube. So, anyway, just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But, like I said, as hyped up as 300B tubes are, people are going to buy them because it says 300B on it. So, I need to have something that they can buy, if that makes sense. So, let's do this. Anyway, if you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Thanks to all you Patreon supporters, folks that make donations to the website and join the membership thing and all that stuff, especially just you regular viewers, people that have kept this channel going, and people that buy my stuff. I do have some bonus stages that are ready to ship. I got a couple of EL34 amps that are ready to go, so hit me up if you're interested. I need to work on my website a little bit and make it more customer friendly or buyer friendly, but I almost do feel like I want to vet my customers before I sell them an amp to make sure that what they're buying fits their needs and is going to make them happy. Because I don't want to ship something to somebody and they go, this doesn't work. It's like, well, yeah, if you talked to me before you bought it, I could have told you that wasn't going to work. And that's kind of what retail stereo shops used to do. And they don't exist anymore. And so I think we need to try to get back to the more customer service, kind of personal service thing. And that's what I want to try to provide. So anyway, we're going to stay busy on this. Hopefully the first next month we'll have some reports on chassis and transformers get here. And we can start putting together this affordable 300B. And until then, have a nice day.